Howdy neighbors, welcome back. Convert Demonic Dragon Magatsu Storm is the deck that we're going to be profiling today. We would have tried Daihozan, but sadly enough, it's not positioned all too well in its current format, and I feel if you don't want to play Shiranui, this is a very close second. Has the auto Vanguard ability when it is attacked by your opponent's Vanguard, counterblast 1, retire 2 of your rearguards, and this unit cannot be hit until end of battle. Plays really well into very aggressive matchups. It's also a Protect archetype, and you're going to want to focus on Protect 1. Its other ability is Auto, once per turn. When your rearguard is returned to your hand during your turn, Soul Blast a grade 3, draw a card, and call 3 cards from your hand to rearguard circle. Not that very difficult to achieve when we come across the rearguards to help support it. Stealth Rogue of Prescription Mizukaze, when placed on rearguard circle. Some of you might have seen this in most Nubatama profiles. I think some have opted to not run it for more draw effects, but I think this card is very dangerous nonetheless. Until end of turn, your opponent cannot call grades that he/she called during that turn from hand to guardian circle, or they can be called at the same time though. So bear that in mind. For our last grade 3 lineup, we are running Convert Demonic Dragon Magatsu Storm Reverse. When this unit is placed on rearguard circle by the ability of your Vanguards with Magatsu in its card name, lock all of your rearguards without Magatsu in their card names, and all of your units get plus 5k until end of turn. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, counterblast 1, discard 2 cards from your hand, and you perform drive checks for the battle that this unit attacked until end of turn. It also has an added ability when this unit is retired from rearguard, Synergy. When this unit is retired from rearguard during your opponent's turn, Soul Blast 1. Put this card into your hand, and your opponent chooses a card from their hand and discard it. Stealth Dragon Magatsu Gale. When this unit is placed on Vanguard or rearguard circle, counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, draw a card, and this unit gets plus 6k until end of turn. At the end of battle that this unit attacked, put this unit into soul and return one of your other rearguards to your hand. Following that, Evil Stealth Dragon Yamishibuki with its rearguard continuous skill. During this turn, this gets plus 5k for each of your grade 0 rearguards. Vanguard Rearguard Auto. When it attacks, counterblast 1, return one of your other rearguards to your hand. Call up to 2 Evil Decoy tokens. Stealth Dragon Sangeki, being a very prominent staple in most Nubatama crest lists. Its skill is discard, checked up 5 for grade 2 or less to add to hand, and its other ability is when it attacks while boosted. If your opponent has 4 cards or more, they need to discard 1. For our grade 1s, Stealth Dragon Uden, by far one of the best grade 1s in Nubatama currently, outside of the crest grade 1. When this unit is rode upon, Soul Blast 1. Reveal a grade 3 normal unit from your hand. Search your deck for up to 1 grade 3 with a different name from the card revealed by this cost. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. Choose 1 card from your hand and put it to the bottom of your deck. Stealth Beast Jadoneko has a soul skill that if you have a Vanguard with Magatsu in its card name, this card gets grade plus 2. It's an extra grade 3 in your deck. Auto Rearguard Circle. At the end of battle, this unit boosted. If you have a Vanguard with Magatsu in its card name, put it into your soul. Choose any number of normal units on your rearguard circle and return them to hand. Stealth Rogue of Invasions Rui. When this unit is rode upon, Soul Blast 1. If your Vanguard is grade 2 or greater, your opponent chooses a card from their hand and discards it. If it is a grade 1 or less, you draw a card. When this unit is placed on rearguard circle, Soul Blast 1. Your opponent chooses a card from their hand and discards it. If your opponent has 5 or less cards, they draw a card. Stealth Rogue of the Night, Sakura Fabuki. When placed, if you have 3 or more units, discard a card from your hand and draw a card. This unit gets plus 3k until end of turn, and if there's 1 or less cards in your damage zone face up, countercharge 1. Stealth Dragon Magatsu, one of the new V promos that we've gotten recently, with its hand effect is being treated as a heal trigger while in your hand for paying the cost of a G-Guardian. When this unit is put on Guardian Circle, if your opponent has a decent hand size, for every 2 cards, you get 10k shield for it. If your opponent has 4 or less cards, however, counterblast 1, and your Vanguard gets plus 5k until end of turn. For our starter, we have Stealth Dragon Magatsu Wind as our V. Drag Veda as our overtrigger, restanding your Vanguard. Stealth Dragon Noroi for our damage crit, you get to draw extra cards. Utility heal to countercharge and soul charge. Soul charging becomes very important in this archetype. Heal Guardian for early game aggression. Draw Sentinel, very handy so that we don't get blown out. And of course, since this deck does tend to have issues with space, if you do want to, you can run grade 1 PGs in Rui's slot, but I feel like she does a whole lot of work to eat through as much as she possibly can your opponent's hand. Stride crits. Torosada is our OG crit, puts it into soul to countercharge 1. Stealth Dragon Onideboshi is our stand trigger. When this unit is placed, if the number of cards in your hand is less than your opponent's, you draw a card, return this to deck and shuffle your deck. Choose one of your other units and it gets plus 3k. Bracing Angel Ladder, allowing you to protect your rear guards from your opponent's retire threats, can give you ways of being able to potentially close out a game when you're probably sure your opponent has an answer. Elementary Sanctitude as our last Sentinel. Here's our G deck. Harmonix Messiah, staple. Rikudo, Stealth Rogue, Yatsuka Lord. Act, once per turn. Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Choose 3 unit cards from your opponent's drop zone, and your opponent chooses any number of those cards from among them, call them to Rearguard Circle. Your opponent's card's auto abilities do not activate from this call. For each unit that was called, your opponent chooses a card from their hand and discards it. For each card you chose that was not called, you draw a card. And all of your front row gets plus 10k until end of turn. And of course the ability stacks. So whatever your opponent decides, doesn't matter to you, get all the benefit from it. I mean, it depends on your opponent as well, if they can miss those 3 cards, and you possibly give them back the rear guards they really wanted, so be very careful about how you use this effect. We have Evil Hades Emperor Shiranui Mukuro, GB2, Soul Blast 2. Choose a face down card from your G zone, turn it face up, choose a card from your hand and discard it. Stand and dominate all of your opponent's vanguards and attack. For that battle, your vanguard battles all of your opponent's rear guards. Be very careful when you're playing against this card as the opponent. Your opponent can't use any G guards because they don't control a grade 3. You need to have a vanguard to do so. Evil Eye Vijaya Emperor Shiranui Rine has a continuous ability that your dominated units get plus 10k and a critical as the GB3. And the counterblast 1 once per turn. Turn the same name of this unit face up. Your opponent calls 2 cards from their hand to Rearguard Circle. Their auto abilities do not activate, and they attack their opponent 1 for 1. And it also gets an additional plus 5, so to get 15k plus crit. Rikudo Demonic Dragon Jakumetsu, with its ability of when it attacks, retire 2 grade 0 cards, and then turn a card from your G zone face up. Draw 2 cards, return all of your rearguards to your hand, and call up to 2 cards from your hand to Rearguard Circle. If you call 2 cards, this unit gets plus 10k and a critical until end of turn. A bit of an investment, so we have our Progenitor Dragon Gilgal. For Counterblast 2 and Soul Blast 1, you get to attack all of your opponent's rearguards. You don't have to pay those strike costs for the rest of the game, which allows you then to just reride your Magatsu, so it can pay the cost a lot easier. But it is a bit of a financial investment, and if you don't feel like it's worth the price for you right now, you can replace it with a GB8. Enma Stealth King Mugen Lord Dagoku, with its dominant ability, Counterblast 1, turn a card in your G zone face up. Your opponent chooses 2 of their face up G units with power from their G zone and calls them to their Rearguard Circle, and you get to attack with them. And their auto abilities could be used as though you were their vanguard, which is kind of a very dangerous thing. One thing to know, that if you're playing against an archetype or playing against somebody who accidentally flipped up their Zerath Dragon and you return it to their G zone, your opponent actually loses their entire G zone, which is funny. So be very careful for anybody who happens to play a Zerath and just needs to flip something. You might want to hold out on flipping your Zerath instantly. Demon Stealth Beast of Reckless Hunger Musho. When this is placed on Guardian Circle, if your hand has 2 or less cards, it gets plus 15k shield. Rikudo Stealth Rogue More Lord. When this unit is put on Guardian Circle, Counterblast 1, this unit gets plus 5k shield until end of battle for each card in your opponent's hand. If your opponent has 4 or less cards, you get to draw a card. Getting almost infinite amount of shield for a CB is, I'd take that. I think a lot of different archetypes would love to have a G-Guard like that. Rikudo Stealth Dragon Gandorakan has the ability of when this is placed on Guardian Circle, if the number of cards in your opponent's hand is 3 or more, this gets plus 5k shield, and if it's 6 or more, it's plus 10k shield. So extra 15k shield is always handy. Jinx, Stealth Fiend, Zashishokime, Auto, GB1. So you already need to have something in your G-Zone face up for you to even G-Guard with this card. Turn a G-Guard in your G-Zone face up. When this unit is placed on Guardian Circle, pay the cost. If you do, your opponent chooses a card from their hand, and they may discard it. If they choose not to, you get plus 20k shield on this card. So you put your opponents between a rock and a hard place to decide on how to get around this, and it doesn't really matter to you as long as they lose a card. You don't need to care. Unless you're playing against Grand Blue, so be careful about forcing certain archetypes to discard cards. Now to the mulligans, and then the combo section of the deck. Now cards to keep. Before we get into the combo section of the video, the ones you'll be aiming to have in your hand is going to be Convert Demonic Dragon Magatsu Storm and Stealth Dragon Unen. Having each of those or a way to have access to Magatsu Storm is going to be very important. The other card you'll also be trying to dig for is going to be Magatsu Storm Reverse. For the combo section of the video, we're striding on Rikudo Demonic Dragon Jakumetsu. This is going to be a very simple one, and hopefully this can explain what some of the small potential things that you can do with this archetype. Here we have Yamishibuki. It does require you to have grade 0s on your rearguard circle to retire them so that you can bounce your rearguards back to your hand, but you can also use Yamishibuki to create evil decoy tokens. Having trigger units can also do that, but getting rid of 15k shield can be very annoying, especially if you're trying to play against your opponent's aggressive strategies. So let's go for the sake of ease here. Let's call our Unen down, swing with Magatsu Gil, don't use the skill to put itself in the soul. Then we swing with Yamishibuki, Counterblast 1. I guess we just bounce Magatsu Gil for no reason, or we can bounce Jado Neko or bounce Unen. Let's bounce the Magatsu Gil since this makes this a bit bigger. Then we get 2 evil decoy tokens, and this also gets plus 10k. Now we have Jakumetsu, retiring these 2. Return all of our rearguards back to our hand, calling 2 of our cards, one of them at least being a Magatsu Storm Reverse. So there's a combination of cards you can then call down. Would be, of course, then a Mizukaze, because we can Soul Blast a grade 3, or Jado Neko, which counts itself as a grade 3, and you make it very annoying for your opponent to guard. We do have to lock this, then we discard this, and we discard 2 cards. We'll just discard the Magatsu Gale and the Unen for ease here. This gets plus 10. It's a Magatsu unit, so it also gets an additional plus 5. And then this gets plus 5. And it also gets Twin Drive. Boom. 42. And first check. Second check. And third check. Critical trigger. Crit. And power here. And then we swing, and this now also has Twin Drive, which gets us nothing. But now we at least have a hefty hand to guard against almost everything our opponent could possibly do to us. Then whenever our opponent attacks into us, we can just Soul Blast 1, Counterblast 1 to retire these 2. Then using this skill, it bounces itself back to our hand, and our opponent needs to discard a card. Magatsu Storm in Premium, an older V archetype brought back into the fold. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this preview of what this deck can do. If you like our content and want to see more of it, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to let us know. And of course, you can also let us know in the comment section below. Be awesome, stay awesome. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in and stopping on by. Till next time.